Hello everyone, Dr. Michael Llamas here today for teaching subjects, and in this video we're going to discuss the types of adverbs. Now, adverbs play an important part in the English language, yet they often go unnoticed because they are quietly at work in the background. They help us modify and add nuances to our sentences. So with that, let's get started on this lesson. Okay, so first let's consider what an adverb actually is. And simply put, adverbs are words that modify verbs, adjectives, and even other adverbs. And this modification functions means that adverbs gives us additional information about an action or a description. And they answer essential questions like how, when, where, how often, and to what extent. So in other words, adverbs provide us with the details that make communications clearer and more vivid. So imagine, for example, saying he ran. This tells us what he did, but not much else. However, if we add an adverb, he ran quickly, we immediately have a clearer picture. We know not just what he did, but how he did it, giving the sentence more dimensions. Now, adverbs in this way are indispensable to effective language. They enhance meaning, depth, and specificity, allowing us to express ourselves with greater precision. And to give you guys a more clearer picture, in this lesson, we're going to be focusing on the 5 critical types of adverbs. And these adverbs include manner, time, place, frequency, and degree. Each of these types answers a different question and fulfills a unique role within a sentence. So hopefully by the end of this lesson is that you'll be able to understand these types of adverbs and feel confident using them to enrich your own writing and speech. And mastering adverbs can transform a simple sentence into something far more engaging and descriptive. So I'm really excited to explore this with you guys. Okay, so now that we established what adverbs are, let's look at our first category, which is adverbs of manner. Now, adverbs of manner tells us how an action is performed. They answer the question in what way or how did it happen. And these adverbs provide clarity and add richness to a description by letting us understand the nature of the action in more detail. So, for example, consider the sentence, she sings. This statement gives us the action but leaves us wondering about the quality of her singing. By adding an adverb of manner, which is she sings beautifully, we immediately gain insight into how she sings. It's no longer just a fact, we can imagine the grace or beauty in her voice, which makes the sentence come to life. These adverbs are usually placed right after the verb or the object in a sentence. So for instance, they worked efficiently, where efficiently tells us how they worked, or in the sentence, she smiled gracefully, giving us a mental picture of her calm, refined demeanor. And adding adverbs of manner brings out a clearer picture of action, giving the reader or the listener a better sense of the scene or behavior being described. Okay, so now let's look at other common adverbs of manner. Words like quickly, slowly, gracefully, carefully, and eagerly are all adverbs that add flavor to how actions are performed. Now imagine each of these adverbs in context. Saying he spoke quickly conveys urgency, while he spoke carefully shows thoughtfulness or caution. Adverbs of manner helps us create a more vivid experience of our audience. They allow us to communicate not just the actions, but the quality, intention, and feel of those actions. So when used well, these adverbs enhance both the meaning and the impact of our sentences, making a language richer and more dynamic. And as we move forward, keep in mind how powerful it could be to answer how with just the right adverb of manner. This is kind of a detail that can transform everyday communication into something that is more engaging and more precise. Okay, now let's explore adverbs of time, which is another essential category that gives our language a temporal context. Now, adverbs of time answer the question when and sometimes for how long. And these adverbs are particularly useful when they let us know when an action takes place. So imagine trying to schedule an event or describe a memory without indicating the time. It would be nearly impossible to convey the full meaning without a sense of when the action happened. Adverbs of time can tell us if something is happening today or if it will happen tomorrow or if it occurred yesterday. So they provide context, allowing our listener or the reader to place the action within a timeline, making our sentences more specific, more informative. And typically, adverbs of time are placed either at the beginning or at the end of a sentence. So, for example, yesterday we celebrated. Here, the adverb yesterday comes at the beginning, immediately setting the time for our audience. Or in the sentence, he'll arrive tomorrow, where tomorrow comes at the end, suitably adding when he's expected. Okay, so some common adverbs of time include words like today, tomorrow, soon, already, and recently. Each of these words allows us to pinpoint timing in a way that enriches our communication. Consider the difference between these two sentences. She completed the report, and she completed the report yesterday. The addition of yesterday changes the sentence entirely. Now we know that the report was completed, but we also know when it was completed, which gives the information more relevance. In everyday language, we rely on adverbs of time consistency. So they help us schedule events, recount past experiences, and set expectations for future occurrences. So without these adverbs, we'd lose the temporal thread that guides much of our communication. So as we continue, keep in mind how adverbs of time enhance our ability to specify when something happens. They are the markers that make our sentences feel grounded in time, whether they're referring to something from the past, the present, or the future. Okay, so now that we've explored adverbs of manner and time, let's turn our attention to adverbs of place. Now, these adverbs answer the question where by indicating the location or direction of an action, which gives our sentences a spatial context. So, adverbs of place are essential when we want to specify where something occurs, bringing a sense of place and orientation to the action. So imagine describing an event or an action without mentioning the location. It would just feel incomplete. Now, adverbs of place helps us fill in this gap, adding a layer of detail that makes our communication more vivid and precise. And typically, these adverbs follow the verb or the object in a sentence. So, for instance, the children played outside. Here, outside gives us an image of the children's location. Or in the sentence, she searched everywhere, where everywhere tells us the extent of her search, emphasizing that she covered all locations. Now, so commonly used adverbs of place include the words like here, there, everywhere, outside, and nearby. Each of these words provide different spatial dimensions that help paint a clearer picture. So, for example, if we say he looked, we are left wondering where he looked. But if we add an adverb in place, he looked nearby or he looked outside, we immediately gain further understanding of the scene. So by including adverbs of place, we can make our statements more engaging, more specific, right? So when we say the birds flew here and there, it gives us a much clearer picture of movement and location than simply just saying the birds flew. In everyday conversation, we rely on adverbs of place to make sure our listeners know where something is happening. And without this context, we lose the element of location, which is often essential to understand an event or an action fully. And as we move forward, think about these adverbs and how they add to the clarity of your sentences. When we incorporate adverbs of place, we are stating what happened, and we are also stating where it happened. This creates a more complete and compelling story, especially in our speaking and our writing. Okay, so next, let's turn our attention to adverbs of frequency, which describe how often an action takes place. Now, these adverbs answer the question how often and are important in understanding patterns, routines, or habits. So when we use adverbs of frequency, we are describing a single instance of an action. We are revealing something about the regulatory or predictability of that action. So for instance, if I say, he always arrives early, the adverb always tells us that arriving early is part of this person's routine. It's something consistent and expected. Similarly, if I say she is rarely late, we understand that being on time is typical for her, and being late is something that is uncommon. Now, adverbs of frequency have a specific placement within sentences, and this can vary slightly depending on the verb in question. Generally, they are placed before the main verb or after forms of the verb to be. That is, words like is, are, was, and were. So let's look at a few examples. He always arrives early, right? So in this case, the word always comes before the verb arrives, which is the main verb. And in the sentence, she is rarely late, here rarely follows the verb is, one of the forms of to be. Now, this placement helps in maintaining clarity in our sentences and ensures that the frequency is applied directly to the action being described. Now, common adverbs of frequency include always, often, sometimes, rarely, and never. And these words provide us with a spectrum of frequency from actions that happen every single time, like always, to actions that happen not at all, as in the word never. And each of these adverbs can convey a lot about a person's habits or the likelihood of an event happening. So if you think of the difference between these two sentences, right? Let's look at this first one where she sometimes reads before bed, which suggests a casual habit, and she always reads before bed, which tells us that reading is a definitive established part of her nightly routine. In both everyday languages and storytelling, adverbs of frequency are incredibly useful for giving depth to our descriptions. They allow us to characterize people's behaviors and events with regularity, creating a sense of rhythm or pattern. Now, whether we're talking about our morning routines, habitual behaviors, these adverbs helps us to communicate how often something occurs, adding another layer to our languages. So make sure you keep this in mind on how these adverbs can add precision when describing actions and routines, helping our listeners or our readers understand frequency and predictability in what we are trying to convey. Okay, so now let's look at adverbs of degree. And this is an important type of adverb that tells us the intensity or extent of an action, adjective, or even another adverb. So adverbs of degree answer the question to what extent or how much, and are instrumental in adding emphasis, precision, or subtlety to our descriptions. And these adverbs allow us to specify how intensely something is true or to what extent a quality is present, which brings an essential layer of nuance and detail to our language. So they let us convey varying degrees of qualities in action, making our descriptions more precise. So adverbs of degree are often placed before adjectives or other adverbs. So, for example, in the sentence, she was very pleased with the results, here the word very modifies the word pleased, intensifying the degree of her satisfaction. And in this other sentence, they were completely exhausted, where the word completely emphasizes just how exhausted they were, adding a level of intensity that a simple description like they were exhausted wouldn't convey. So some key adverbs of degree that we commonly use include the words very, quite, almost, to, and completely. And each of these words allows us to express different levels of intensity. Very and quite indicate a high degree, but not an absolute one. So, for instance, she's quite skilled suggests a significant skill level, though not the highest possible. Completely indicates an absolute state, as in they were completely exhausted, which was the sentence that we just used, and this tells us that they have no energy left. And the word almost shows that something is nearly true, such as he almost finished, which implies the action is close to completion. So using adverbs of degree can change the tone and clarity of our sentences. So imagine saying the soup is hot. Adding an adverb of degree like the soup is too hot immediately conveys that the temperature is excessive, possibly to the point of being uncomfortable or even dangerous. And this small addition makes the sentence much more informative to the reader or the listener. Now, in both writing and in speech, adverbs of degrees are very important tools because they allow us to calibrate our expressions so our listeners or readers understand the intensity or limit of what we are describing. So whether we're describing feelings, qualities, or actions, adverbs of degree helps us communicate that with precision. So as we proceed, think about how these adverbs can bring greater clarity and depth to your language, giving you control over how much emphasis you want to convey. Okay, so now that we've examined each of the main types of adverbs, which are manner, time, place, frequency, and degree, let's take a moment to compare them side by side. So, understanding their differences and similarities will help solidify how each type uniquely contributes to our language, providing a clarity, detail, and nuance. Okay, so first let's start with adverbs of manner. So, these adverbs answer the questions how an action is performed. So, for example, in the sentence, he drives carefully, the adverb carefully gives us insight into the manner of his driving. Adverbs of manner often appear after the verb and helps us visualize the action with greater precision. Next, the adverbs of time tells us when an action takes place. So if we say they left yesterday, the adverb yesterday provides a specific time frame, giving context to the action. Now, adverbs of time can appear at the beginning or end of a sentence, helping to establish a temporal context that clarifies when things are happening. Then we have adverbs of place, which indicates where an action occurs. So, for example, in the sentence, she waited outside, this sentence uses the adverb outside to provide a spatial setting. This tells us the exact location, allowing the listener or the reader to picture the scene more accurately, right? So these adverbs generally follow the verb or object to clearly communicate the place. Okay, then we have adverbs of frequency. These explain how often an action happens. So in the sentence, I rarely eat out, the adverb rarely tells us that dining out is infrequent, right? So frequency adverbs are important when we're discussing routines or patterns, as they provide insight into the regularity of the actions. Okay, and lastly, we have adverbs of degree. Now, these describe to what extent or how much something is true. So, for instance, when we say, she is completely ready, the adverb completely adds intensity, showing that there is no degree of unreadiness, right? Now, adverbs of degree allow us to express varying levels of intensity, making our descriptions more accurate. So just to quickly summarize all of these types, each type of adverb has a distinct role, okay? So if we look here in the table here, we have manner shows how, right? Time answers when, place answers where, frequency answers how often, and then degree answers to what extent, right? And then we have some sample sentences on the right. So these differences are subtle but impactful. So by using the right type of adverb in the right context, we can make our sentences richer, more precise, and ultimately more effective. Okay, so as we continue, keep these distinctions in mind to enhance the clarity and detail in your own writing and in your speaking. Okay, so now that we've explored the different types of adverbs, let's discuss how they're applied in everyday language. Now, adverbs play an important part in both the spoken and the written communication, providing us with the tools to add clarity, precision, and engagement. Okay, so firstly, adverbs can greatly enhance clarity. So by specifying how, when, where, how often, or to what extent an action occurs, these adverbs prevent ambiguity and ensures that the listener or the reader fully understands the intended meaning. So, for instance, simply saying he spoke gives us little insight into how he spoke, whereas he spoke softly conveys a tone of gentleness or perhaps secrecy. Secondly, adverbs contribute precision, right? They allow us to fine tune our language, helping us to communicate with exactness. Consider how adverbs of degree, like completely or almost, add subtlety to our descriptions instead of a vague statement. Adverbs make our language specific and direct, play a key role in shaping tone, perception, and emphasis. So think of the difference between I'm ready and I'm absolutely ready, right? The addition of absolutely emphasizes the speaker's confidence. The choice of adverb can change how a statement is perceived. And by using adverbs thoughtfully, we can express enthusiasm, caution, certainty, or even doubt, depending on our choice of adverbs. Okay, so to put this into practice, let's try a brief exercise. So consider this sentence. He spoke softly and moved quickly through the room yesterday, right? In this sentence, we have three adverbs. Can you identify each one and determine which type of adverb it is? Okay, so let's go through them quickly, right? So softly is an adverb of manner, right? It tells us how he spoke. Quickly is also an adverb of manner, right? It tells us how he moved. Yesterday is an adverb of time. It tells us when this event occurred. So by analyzing this sentence, we can see how each adverb provides a distinct layer of meaning, right? The adverb softly and quickly describes his action in detail, and then the adverb yesterday situates the entire event in time, making the sentence clear and informative. So, what's great about this exercise is that it illustrates how applying adverbs can make sentences more engaging and more informative. And as you use adverbs in your own communication, remember how each type can help you convey your thoughts and intentions more effectively. So, with this understanding, you can be equipped into enriching your speaking and your writing with greater depth and even accuracy. As we wrap up our presentation on adverbs, let's take a moment to summarize the key takeaways and reflect on their significance in our own language. Right. So first, we learned that adverbs of manner, time, place, frequency, and degree each serve a unique and vital role in the sentence structure. Right. So by categorizing adverbs in this way, we can better understand their function and apply them correctly into our writing and speaking. Now, each type contributes to the richness of our language, enhancing our ability to convey specific meaning and details. We also discussed how these adverbs can enhance our communication by providing important detail, clarity, and nuance, right? So, for instance, adverbs of manner clarify how actions are performed, while adverbs of time place actions within a specific context. So, by integrating these adverbs into our sentences, we can transform vague statements into precise descriptions that engage our audience. Moreover, we emphasize that understanding and using these types of adverbs effectively enhances both speaking and written language, right? So, whether you're crafting an email, giving a presentation, or just having a simple conversation with your friends, the appropriate use of adverbs can elevate your communication. They allow you to articulate your thoughts more vividly, ensuring that your audience fully grasps the message that you're trying to convey. Now, as a final thought, I want to emphasizing that mastering adverbs enables us to communicate more vividly, right? It ensures our message is clear and also impactful. And the choices of adverbs can influence how your words are received and also understood. So by being mindful of your adverb usage, you can enhance the effectiveness of your communication and also make a more lasting impression. So with that, I want to thank you for your attention throughout this presentation. I hope you feel more equipped to identify and use adverbs on your own in your writing and your speaking. Be sure to like this video. Comment down below if you have any questions or comments. Subscribe to the channel for more content. Follow us on social media too. Thanks for watching.